When the offer came, I was choked. I think that's the best way. Because I could see if you were to go, if you were to pass, having completed this, what a wonderful way to go. Doing this at my time of life, at Fountains Abbey, the biggest abbey in England. What an opportunity. When I started to work at Fountains Abbey, there was still that element in me of disbelief that I was doing this thing. I was fearful. I remember coming downstairs. What the hell are you going to do? Should you really be here? And as I walked into the place where we have breakfast, it all cleared. I could have burst into tears. Of course you're supposed to be here. It was like a little voice saying to me, this is an adventure, this is wonderful. All the limitations just fell away. And I just basked in the joy of going out there and beginning to work. It was just magic. Fountains Abbey was a complete discovery because drawing buildings was something I didn't do on a regular basis. It wasn't part of my natural world. The first things I did, I drew with a charcoal pencil, the softest one I could find, because I didn't want a tight result. I didn't want to be able to control it. I wanted to have to fight to control it, because in the process of striving, new things would emerge, and there would be a freshness. Get me the softest charcoal pencils that are manufactured in the world. I don't want anything resembles hard. Get me fully ultrasonic soft charcoal pencils which crumble when you work with them. And of course, forcing me to control these things. Instead of giving me a hard line, give me a beautiful soft mark. And of course, it strangely corresponded with the kind of surface that I was drawing, because I was drawing stone. And you don't get an incisive edge with stone that's been kicked around for the last 1400 years. Something that tells you of its time span. And that's what I was wanting to get. It had to be as a result of the way I was working, not copying. And that's why I was so thrilled with those first drawings. They are the core, the root. the beginnings. Those drawings actually provided me with the background for the small paintings that are all scattered on little easels all over. I didn't expect them necessarily to be finished pieces, and all of them, if you look closely at them, you find there's bits of the board left over. They aren't finished pieces. They're never meant to be finished pieces. They are ideas. They are suggestions. I wanted a distinction between them and the finished pieces, which were going to be bigger. And there is a distinction. I thought, they're as finished as they need to be. And they were all governed by the size of board that I worked on. And I worked on raw board. I maybe primed the surface with some sort of spray, but not with any colour. I didn't put any colour into it, so I worked on bare board, what it looked like bare board, and left them fresh and sharp. Endless artists have worked from Fountains Abbey. I mean, everybody's had a crack at it. Well, I wanted my own perception, my own vision. I didn't want to borrow from other people. I mean, there were periods of time where I was very graphic in the way I handled landscape stuff. But it was strangling. It was, I felt stifled, trapped. And I knew what I really felt about what I saw was not there. Only when I somehow finally let go and allowed the materials to play their part, that I could then begin to make the thing work poetically and be brave enough to let it exist. Knowing that some people would come along and say, oh, that's, I mean, I've had people say, oh, that's slap and dash. Partially unexplained, because they can't be explained without being extremely explicit. And as you do that, you close the door of imagination. You make the decision, and then thereafter, possibilities have vanished. I like the painting to be with the open door so people can walk through, can enter into that world of imagination, that world of possibilities, which they partially have to make a contribution towards. I like people to feel, and I think most people who purchase my work, most people who enjoy my work, will always feel that they made a contribution towards it. When they look at it, they kind of almost finish it for themselves. So the landscape becomes a kind of mediator between what I feel and the viewer. And it will mean I won't carry everybody with me. Not everybody will appreciate that. Not everybody will say, oh, that's a lovely painting. You need to leave an impression of things in relationship to each other, things that act on each other, things that talk to each other. To get away from things, topography, copying. I'm still dealing with things, but I can do what I like with these things. In fact, I must do. I have to feel my own freedom. To look firstly at fountains and then more vividly at the river, the spreading of the water areas and things like that, that all came later. I haven't repeated what other people have drawn, painted or photographed. I thought what I've got to do are things that I feel I can say something about that maybe hasn't been said. And I was able to do that mostly with Studley Royal. Because although there were lots of statues and lots of water, I did take views that were different. I have lots and lots of experience of working with hillsides, reflections in water, stuff like that. Studley Royal was going to be me, so I was looking forward to that. But of course, strangely enough, when it actually came about that I was no longer working on fountains, I was self-conscious for the first time. Oh, I'm in my own territory now. I'm expected to produce good stuff. Nobody expected it from me when it came to fountains. So there was that self-consciousness. Very brief, but it was there. And then, in the end, I felt my way forward. And I did that crazy one, which is minimal in the extreme. I stopped dead on that one because I kept looking at it every day. The one that is on that back wall, that was the one I was working on. I was having quite a bit of fun with it, really, because there was a big, big stretch of water in that. And I wasn't entirely certain that I wanted as big a stretch of water as that. So I altered the foreground. And it's damp rather than deep water. It's damp, it's muddy, it's a bit dirty. And I divided it up. There's all sorts of lines in that one that lead to a point where there's a figure, a little figure. I didn't put that figure in. It was ages before I put that figure in. But I knew I wasn't going to mess around. I was going to bang like that, and that was going to be it when I put it in. The bit on the left was a joy beyond my belief. It really got it working, and the eye tends to go to that part. It took a little while because this was going to be the first one to get finished of the big ones and of the Studley Royals. And it did, and once I finally put the figure in, I thought, boom, that's great. I'm happy now. I very rarely went out with one sketchbook. I would go out 3 or 4, because I often worked wet, and while one drawing was drying, I'd pick up another sketchbook. So, you know, I don't have sketchbooks which are sort of, you know, he did that drawing, then he did this, and then this, and then this. It's that sketchbook for the first drawing, that one for the second, that one for the third, back to the first one for the fourth. So that a lot of the time it's a case of putting a group of sketchbooks together, and they didn't all get filled at the same time. But the main thing was the material that I was gathering. I wasn't making a record for historical purposes. I was making for functional purposes, for using and recording and memorizing. It was an aid to memory. Then I started the other one, which was quite strange in a way, because there's hardly any sky in it, and the sky is actually at the front in reflection in the water. It's upside down. If you actually turn the painting upside down, it becomes what it is, sky, where you'd expect to find the sky. But in the painting proper, the sky's at the bottom, which was rather a curious thing to do, but I wanted to do it. And there's a lot of interesting shapes. Again, there's a lot of angles and lines, and I did include quite a number of them, and I kept stretching the water out at the front and then dropping the sky in. I had a great bit of fun with that one. And of course there's a crumpled looking temple at the back, which I hid partly. You're going to have to blend it, and the only way you can blend it is give it the same treatment as you give everything else. So I had those sort of things to learn. Anything to do with buildings, I have to make them fit, make them belong, allow them to exist within the context of the work. And I suppose that has been the biggest challenge. For me, the whole painting process has to surprise me. It has to be new to me every day. It's got to be an adventure. It's almost like a kind of injection, a kind of shock. What I have to do to stimulate my imagination and my feeling about the painting I'm doing is a surprise. I need something to energize me, to excite me. It can't be what I've already done. And going out into the landscape and getting these studies reinvigorates and nourishes my imagination. The one with the lane through the woods with the water on the left, that just flowed out because I didn't use any reference source. I mean, I didn't find it. Well, I didn't look very hard either. I thought I don't need to. I can make this. I remember it vividly. The tree on the right, the length of the woods next, and then the water on the left, just visible down in the hollow at the bottom. And I enjoyed doing it. And in fact, I had to watch it. I didn't over detail it really. I can't say that I necessarily will get all that I felt about that thing that I saw and is recorded in a series of studies. I can't say I'll get it all in one painting. I might get part of it in that painting. I might need to do another or a third or a fourth. But I don't look at that study and copy it and expect to get it, because you'll not get it. What that already has, it'll keep. What you want from it is that bit that maybe will just simply remind you of the excitement that you had when you first saw this fantastic thing. Forget the study then and begin. The pervading feeling is one of gratitude that I'm still able at 86 to go down that back lane, to open the studio and go in there. And as I opened the door, I wouldn't say there's a smile on my face, but there is, first of all, fantastic view to my left. And then I go in, turn on the light. And although what I can do now takes me a lot longer than it has done before, I learned to operate within the confines of my capability. I accept the difficulties involved, but as long as I don't get frustrated by it, I'm okay. You see me struggling about the place, but all I'm doing is being careful. I don't want to fall over. I use that stick, which I love very much, and I get in the position that I want to be for making the mark. I'm doing my best work when physically looking at the state of my hands, you wouldn't think it physically possible. I can't even bring this thumb up into its correct position. How much is it affecting me? Not one jot. Nothing is going to stop me. I'll just find other ways of achieving what I want to achieve. Sometimes I say, I'm in heaven. Outside, the sun's shining. I've just fed the birds. What more do I need to sit there and work and stand and do what I can do. In nearly all the paintings to do with Studley Royal, apart from the one I'm working on now, they've all got some evidence of man, either a figure or a temple. And this one hasn't got that at all. It's going to have reflections in the water, reflections of interesting things, partly merging, partly coming through. And I will have to skin it with one or two very thin touches of light line across the water. It is an exciting one. It's becoming more exciting as I begin to visualize how it's going to end up. Because more of that stuff in that painting on the left-hand side high up is going to have to be trees or evidence of trees in one form or another. And more of the detail will have to be removed. It's too much detail at the moment, but it's great fun. If I'm in total control, I produce rubbish, banal, drab nothingness. It's when I release control, when I can let go, and it's a terrifying experience. It's sort of like going down a toboggan run and letting go of the controls, letting some outer force take charge. As you battle with these materials and lose awareness of yourself and engage with what you're dealing with, all of a sudden the whole thing comes alive and vital. You're alive as well. You've lost awareness of yourself. And when you get it, you're out of your own skin. It's almost like an out-of-body experience in a way. Studley Royal was so full of life and vitality, and Fountains was so structural, and I was expecting a contrast between the two, which I got. They were very different. Nobody had done that. There was textures and forms and patterns there that they wouldn't have seen from anybody else. And there was no attempt on my part to copy. I put down my own version of it, if you like. I mean, it's been such a thrill to begin it, to bring it to a conclusion. And I felt a great invigoration again. I think it would be disastrous if I even contemplated retirement now. This is no longer the end of the journey. I'm doing what I love doing, and I'm continuing to improve. If anything, I just see more and more possibility in front of me.